These are 3 of Gumball's scariest episodes, the third being The Signal. The episode starts at the mall, where Darwin is looking for a hat from the sale box. So he puts his blinged out hat on and asks Gumball what he thinks, but he can't respond and just starts glitching, making Darwin insecure. So he puts on a fedora instead, and once again he glitches out. And for Darwin, it seems like he's scared to be honest about his opinion. Already this episode is really unusual. Imagine our reality glitching. That's actually terrifying. Darwin keeps trying on more hats, and Gumball glitches every time. And even in one glitch, he goes split screen with another TV show, completely breaking the fourth wall, starting to show that Gumball's reality might actually just be a television show. Anyway, Darwin gets sick of Gumball, somehow not noticing that he's glitching, and assumes Gumball thinks he's ugly and has a big head, so he dips on him, and Gumball chases after him. While he's chasing him, he glitches again. And what's interesting about this glitch is that the TVs in the back also glitch, making it seem like Gumball's reality is a nested reality. Like we are watching a show that also has shows with other self-aware characters. So we see that Richard's TV is not working, so he moves the couch to watch the literal fridge, and weirdly he is enjoying this. Darwin, who is still insecure, is attempting to work out, trying to do a pull-up, but he struggles and decides to do a bench press instead. He gets the bar off the rack and is actually doing it, but he ends up struggling and can't get the bar up, so Gumball goes to pick it up, and glitches again, making the bar just crush Darwin. This once again makes Gumball look like a total jerk. Darwin is obviously mad and somehow isn't dead, but Gumball is not glitching finally, and gets to apologize to Darwin, reassuring him that he's not ugly. So Darwin forgives him and smiles, but then Darwin glitches this time and like melts or something, which is so disturbing, and this makes Gumball almost throw up. Gumball plays it off well, but then Darwin's face lags so hard he has human eyes, and Gumball cannot play this one off, and I can't even blame him. Darwin once again is mad and storms out lagging. Gumball now realizes something weird is going on, so he decides, since he can't talk, to write Darwin a letter. After trying a bunch of writing styles, he gets on his laptop and writes up a genuinely sweet letter, apologizing for everything and how he doesn't want to lose him as a friend. He overthinks his letter though, but Darwin walks in, forcing him to read the letter, but the glitches kick back in, and what was actually a sweet letter becomes a letter about how Darwin's face is horrible and he hopes they stop being friends, leaving Darwin obviously more mad. So Gumball goes to his dad to ask him if anything strange is happening, and he starts talking in different channels.
I'm your new...
Darwin comes over to them to just be petty and show Gumball how mad he is, so Gumball tries apologizing to him, but keeps glitching, and the reality loses signal. And then all of a sudden Darwin is beating up Gumball. Their dad then starts tweaking out, making weird faces and sounds, and Gumball finally gets to show Darwin something weird is happening. Just as Darwin begins to understand, it turns out Richard was just being weird on purpose to create a diversion, and then tells them if they stop fighting he will take them out for ice cream. On the ride, Darwin is still mad at Gumball, until they glitch to the gas station, and if that wasn't enough proof, Darwin gets to watch his dad start glitching out, finally making him realize something weird is definitely going on. They glitch again and are back in the car, and they both make up, and it's a sweet moment, but it gets ruined when they realize ain't nobody driving the car because their dad is still glitching at the gas station. Things just keep getting weirder too. They scream, and then we see birds scream. Then Darwin tells Gumball to not take his seatbelt off, and we see a Play-Doh car plow into a wall, a brain with a woman talking about headaches, and a watermelon exploding. This is obviously weird, but what is even more weird is that Gumball and Darwin can see the channel switching. Anyways, the car ends up driving on a ramp, and while in mid-air they glitch again and are going up a hill. They then go down the hill and smash into Patrick's car, and when he screams, we switch to seeing an ice cream cone being filled up. This episode is getting insane, and while it seems like a haha funny episode, when really putting yourself into the shoes of Gumball and Darwin, this is terrifying. Their entire reality is breaking. I can't imagine the feeling I would have experiencing this. To be honest, even though they are freaking out, they're handling it much better than I would. Anyway, Gumball and Darwin try coming up with a plan, and mid figuring it out, we see these creepy looking clowns, and when we glitch back, Darwin and Gumball's faces are morphed like the clowns. They can't even react to what just happened because then they crash into a wall, and we cut to a commercial of Joyful Burger, and then they glitch back and have food, and the car gets to the mall and finally stops. But then it cuts to a panther, and it split screens and the panther moves the car. Honestly, this episode is so wild, explaining it is hurting my brain. Anyway, they drive to the mall and almost hit Larry, but luckily reality glitches again and stops the car. Then the news on the TVs in the back comes on, and the anchor explains that they are having broadcast issues. This is where Gumball and Darwin finally put the pieces together. If the TV having broadcast issues is affecting them, then they might be TV characters. But before they can even process what they just learned, they glitch back home at the dinner table with their family. Richard casually explains that they got home safe, Gumball and Darwin made up, and everything is good, and everyone starts laughing, while Gumball and Darwin force an awkward, uncomfortable laugh. Then the episode glitches out and ends. This entire episode was unsettling. I know this isn't the typical type of scare you would expect with ghosts and demons, but it's an existential horror, which can be just as scary. This episode at first seemed like a gag, with the glitches just causing causing a misunderstanding between Darwin and Gumball, but then the glitches got worse, leading to a horrifying ending where they find out they are just TV characters, and then get sent back to their family who act like everything is okay, which would mean that Gumball and Darwin are the only ones that are self-aware in this universe, and everyone around them is an NPC. Honestly, insanely terrifying. I cannot imagine realizing you are not real, and then just having to act like it's okay, because everyone will think you're crazy. So you're just stuck with that knowledge, and have to live the rest of your pointless life till you die. That's why they try laughing with everyone to fit in, so the others didn't notice that something was wrong. I also wonder if the show is cancelled. Do Gumball and Darwin stay in this world? Do they go to a blank void? Do they watch other TV shows? Or do they just die? Honestly, for a kid show, this is so deep. This is literally the Truman Show, but Gumball. The second episode is The Puppets. The episode starts with Gumball and Darwin going through some old toys in the attic. They go through a bunch of nostalgic toys, and then Darwin finds some puppets, who already look terrifying. And by the way, this episode had help from the team who made Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, so yeah, it's gonna be creepy. Anyways, Darwin wants to play with the puppets, but Gumball tells him no, because they are too old to be playing with puppets. And oh boy, do I wish he listened, but he doesn't, and sneakily hid the puppets in his pocket, I think. Not really sure if he has pockets. He doesn't even have clothes. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Anyways, he puts the puppets on his hands and just has some fun, voicing each of the puppets. We learn that the one on the right is Frank, and the one on the left is Howdy. Also, these puppets have been stored away in this dark box for 7 years, because they got a video game console. Darwin then, literally voicing these puppets himself, gaslights himself into promising these puppets he will never take them off again. Then Gumball and Darwin head onto the school bus, and Darwin uses Howdy to mess with the school bus driver.
Where have you been all my life?
And at first I thought it was weird that Rocky was flirting back with her, but then I realized bro is literally a puppet too. So he goes in for a kiss with a literal hand puppet, and then sees that Darwin's the one controlling it and freaks out. Then he literally crashes the school bus because he got distracted, and somehow Rocky was the only one who got injured in the accident, as we see Darwin walking by perfectly fine looking guilty, but then messes with him again.
Kami.
Honestly, very out of character for Darwin. He usually isn't mean to people. He also looked like he felt bad. Very odd. Darwin gets to his table to eat though, and struggles because, well, he has to eat with puppets on his hands. Mid-attempt, Gumball comes over, and Darwin hides the puppets instantly. Gumball then starts mocking the bus driver, making fun of him. We then see the puppets looking visibly angry over this, which is weird. Usually with hand puppets, you can only move their mouth, not their expressions. So now I'm really starting to think that something suspicious is going on with these puppets. Darwin then starts talking the puppet voices, roasting Gumball, like he has no control over it, looking visibly uncomfortable. Gumball does not realize what is happening, and just thinks Darwin is being a jerk, and smacks him with some meat and dips. Then we see Darwin taking a literal bath with these puppets. He is really staying true to his promise. But Gumball hears him talking to someone and barges in, and Darwin quickly puts his puppets into the water. While Gumball continues interrogating him, the literal puppets could not hold their breath that long, and he brings them back up. Gumball is disappointed, and Darwin comes out to explain, but his feet are not covered, so I guess that's his private parts or something. After covering up his feet, Darwin tries explaining how the puppets are actually real, and of course Gumball thinks that he's crazy. He tries convincing Darwin to take the puppets off, and the puppets start attacking him, which, like I said earlier, is not like Darwin's character. These puppets might actually be real. Gumball ultimately wins the fight against Darwin and the puppets, and gets the puppets off and throws them in the garbage. Darwin begs him again, saying that they are alive, but Gumball does not buy it. It then becomes night, and we get a shot of the garbage with this scary sound effect, which can't be good. The puppets then come out of the garbage with actual voices that aren't Darwin, which is terrifying. Darwin was not lying. So the puppets get out of the trash can and drag Grady with them, and they enter the house, and Howdy grabs a bat and walks away. Oh no. Gumball wakes up after hearing some whacking sounds, and turns out Howdy broke their gaming console to get back at it for replacing them. Turns out too, Darwin once again is holding the puppets, so I guess they weren't alive? Well, actually they are. Howdy says that Darwin is not actually talking, and now lives in their world. This episode went south real fast. It started as if Darwin was just having fun controlling these puppets, but actually they were controlling him this entire time, consuming his soul. So the only way to get Darwin out of this world is for Gumball to also go into their world. So now he has to play with Grady. He puts Grady on, and as soon as he puts him on, he instantly knows what is going on, saying,
"Shall we go find Master Darwin?"
And then he says something so unsettling. So Gumball is confused about how he knows what's going on, and he explains that just because he can't talk doesn't mean he can't see or hear, which means all these years, these puppets had just been in this box listening to everything. Anyways, Gumball grabs Grady's hand and ventures into the puppet world, and this instantly gives me Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared vibes. Gumball is now a puppet himself, and they are in this colorful world. Something about colorful worlds is so unsettling when you know it's just a mask for the true horror behind it. So Gumball walks around seeing things they imagined when they were kids, like a real life hand, a screaming sun, this backrooms looking tree that makes me feel like I'm dying, a bird playing bird, and a keyboard dog. These all just remind me of my childhood in the worst way possible. We finally see where Darwin is, and he is in this gloomy looking house with Frank and Howdy, who are now life-size, and they are singing a song, which seems like a fun kid's song. song, but the lyrics make it very obvious it's evil. They keep repeating the lyrics, the fun will never end, while showing the most disturbing, uncomfortable visuals I've ever seen in this show. This song and everything symbolizes that they have trapped Darwin here and he is never escaping, which with the mask and making it seem like it's all pure and kitty makes it 10 times more scary. Anyway, Gumball comes barging in, trying to save Darwin, until Grady comes in explaining this was all a trap, and they all close the doors, leaving them trapped in this empty room. Finally, we get to see the true horror of this world, and we watch as the puppets now play with Darwin and Gumball, explaining all the ways that they are going to torture them. Darwin, though, luckily got a hold of some string from the puppets and pulls it, freeing them, and we get some very uncomfortable scenes of the puppets breaking. Gumball and Darwin then realize this place is powered by their imagination, so they blow up the entire place and escape. They then sell the puppets in a garage sale, which is so messed up, and the episode ends. So this episode is most definitely typical horror, and I can't imagine being a little kid watching this episode. I would have thrown away all my toys. The idea of toys coming alive and consuming your soul into their world and playing with you for all of eternity and torturing you is horrifying. Also, I don't know what it is about kid-style horror, but it creeps me out. Don't Help Me Out Scared did such a great job on this episode, and their style really complemented Gumball. It fits so well. This episode also did great with the build-up. At first, the whole puppet thing is funny and seems like a joke. Even though there are some hints to them being real, you can never be sure. Then they smack you with a crazy plot twist, which was amazing, and took this episode real quick from a gag episode to one of the most terrifying episodes of cartoon history. I assume the puppets are probably real, but I would have never guessed them having a whole world where they consume children's souls. I love being genuinely shocked. That's so rare for shows nowadays. They were so insane creative for this episode, especially with the puppet world. It was so unsettling and had me as a grown man low-key tweaking out. But also as a horror fan, I was loving it, I won't lie, which is crazy to say about a usually funny show. Finally, the scariest episode of Gumball is The Joy. The episode instantly starts off with a scary vibe, showing us the scary font saying Monday, 7:53 a.m., followed by some creepy music. At first, nothing really seems creepy though, as Gumball and Darwin look all angry, making their breakfast, then going to the door and just slamming it over and over. Richard asks them what is wrong, and they just say Mondays suck, which is understandable. The scary font comes back, as we see the school and text saying 9:01 a.m. So Darwin is still grumpy, but for some reason is smiling, and Gumball is heel clicking, and they actually find this weird, because it seems they aren't purposely doing this. We then see Miss Simeon just being her classic self, just being a Karen around the halls. Then we cut to a monitor that Miss Simeon is using to monitor the kids to make sure they're miserable, and this scene has such a creepy vibe, and it really reminds me of FNAF to be honest. Anyway, as she is happy seeing all her miserable children, she sees Gumball and Darwin, who weirdly are extremely happy now. It's now 10:28. And Gumball literally cannot stop smiling. Darwin even tells him to stop, and Gumball says it's not his fault. Also, Miss Simeon is staring them down, and Gumball just starts singing in auto-tune, saying how his cheeks hurt, but his heart is telling him to keep smiling. Darwin even starts singing in auto-tune too, and they both just sing about how much joy they have. But what's weird is they both try shutting each other up. It's like they both know they shouldn't be singing, but literally cannot help it. Miss Simeon then questions how they are so happy on a Monday morning, and Gumball says he doesn't even understand himself, he's just so happy. He then starts laughing at Darwin's nose, and coughs out this weird looking fairy particles, showing proof that something weird is definitely going on. He then continues to laugh uncontrollably, and Miss Simeon is crashing out over this. We then abruptly cut to Principal Brown, doing some sort of weird self-tape where he fantasizes beating up a kid, and Miss Simeon walks in on him. She then just closes the door, opens it back up, and it's like it never happened. This is such a funny scene, such an iconic moment, and shows how well Gumball can mix humor and horror. Anyway, Miss Simeon explains that there is a disease spreading of joy, and of course, Principal Brown thinks she is crazy, and you can't blame him. She just seems like a Karen hitting on kids for being happy. He definitely did not have to go overboard and explain her being crazy by doing all of this though. Then she says she will prove it to him and steals his camera. It's now 11:06 and Miss Simeon is documenting the outbreak. I absolutely love this style, and it reminds me of the Blair Witch Project. So Miss Simeon says the disease is destroying the subject's faces, and it pans over to Gumball and Darwin with such unsettling smiles. And the nurse also thinks she's crazy, saying that the kids are just happy, but Miss Simeon says happiness is a disease and does this weird petty dance. Then to prove her point, she tells Gumball to stop smiling, and no matter what he does, he genuinely cannot stop smiling. Now it's 15:33 p.m. and Miss Simeon is starting their eyes with a flashlight and has been doing it for half an hour, and the 16:06 p.m. smacks her in the face, which is a really cool fourth wall break. Then we get probably the best proof so far that they really are infected when we see their POVs. And Miss Simeon is a sock puppet and the nurse is a candy cane, and they try kissing her. Of course she freaks out and just throws this random bottle of fluid at them, which I guess was cough syrup, and they just smile even after this. This makes the nurse really mad at Miss Simeon for how she's treating them. Honestly surprising, most school nurses do not care. It's now 16:36 p.m. and she has quarantined them, and the nurse finally gets fed up with her and goes to get the principal. But while she's gone, Gumball and Darwin have a laugh seizure and spit out these joy particles and literally die. Once the principal gets there, Miss Simeon is dancing because because she finally got proof, which is while she's celebrating, like they didn't just die, Principal Brown obviously freaks out and heads inside, thinking of the consequences of killing students, but then right behind him, Gumball and Darwin creepily get up and then jump Principal Brown, and now he is infected. Yeah, this is an episode about zombies. Joy zombies. Miss Simian and the nurse dip, and Miss Simian, being Miss Simian, throws the nurse to them and gets her infected too. We then get to watch from the cameras the virus spreading. And honestly, even though they all look happy and have cute glowing particles, I think it's maybe scarier than zombies. Something about a zombie looking all happy running at you and infecting you is just so unsettling. Anyways, after watching this virus spread, Miss Simian has a crash out, destroying her entire room. But from this, she ends up dropping a book on her tape recorder, playing her sad music. And it turns out that is a cure, as Principal Brown is not infected anymore. So she gets a plan. Get to the broadcasting room and play the music. What sucks about his plan though, is she has to go into the infected halls, which looks so eerie and scary. She sees Anais, who's in a dark corner, laughing manically, but luckily she trips into a locker, so Miss Simian is fine. Miss Simian, then being smart, fake smiles and acts like a zombie to walk through the hall. But this woman, even in a zombie apocalypse, can't help herself and dress codes the banana. The zombies then realize she isn't a real zombie, so they start chasing her. Miss Simian runs for her life and runs into Tina, a literal T-Rex who is now a zombie, but luckily Tina is too big and gets stuck. So Miss Simian finally escapes and gets into the broadcasting room and is about to play the song, but turns out Gumball and Darwin are in the room and infect her. And the episode just ends with Principal Brown practicing fighting with a broom. Honestly, the most insane cliffhanger I've ever seen. Did they beat the infection? Did Principal Brown save them? Or did they have to reset the universe after this episode? And what sucks is we'll never know. Most kids who have seen this episode have had nightmares. I know for a fact I did as a kid. Imagine tuning in for Gumball, your favorite funny show, and then watching this episode. It's horrifying. Zombies are scary. Most people can agree with that. And honestly, I really liked how they got creative with them and didn't make a generic zombie episode. But man, the Joy zombies were something else. This episode was a masterpiece and genuinely scary. The editing was spot on for a creepy episode and made me feel like I was watching an actual horror movie. It had timestamps with creepy font, a camcorder style format, a creepy atmosphere, and the infection part was straight nightmare fuel. This episode also had such a great build up and story, and the ending will always freak me out. I hate how it just leaves you with a sense of emptiness, never knowing if they'll beat the infection. But yeah, Scariest episode Gumball, Scariest episode Gumball, Scariest episode Gumball, this is Scariest episode Gumball, this is Scariest episode. These are 3 Scariest episodes Gumball, Scariest